Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to offer dana, then please do go to justthiszen.org/giving. Your support really does make a huge difference. Thank you so much.
Welcome everyone. It is so lovely to see you all, and it's particularly delightful to know that we've got a talk from Josh to anticipate this morning. Thank you so much, Josh.
Thank you, Catherine. Um, thank you, everyone, for inviting me here again today. It's always lovely to be in Sheffield and all the other places that you are at this moment. Flint once said, Zen is essentially a change in perspective. And regarding our practice, I'm aware how my perspectives, my understanding and expression of practice has changed over many years now and keeps changing, and how our understanding and expression of practice changes collectively together. I'm very aware that we realize and express this practice together. I recently was struck by a statement by Suzuki Roshi. He said, what is important is not the teaching, but the character or effort of the student. And he went on to say, Dogen was a monk who wanted to be a sincere disciple of the Buddha. That's all. He had already given up the scholarly study of Buddhism. So his problem was how to be a good disciple from the bottom of his heart and mind. I wonder whether you think of yourself as a student of this practice, and what that means. You know, how would you describe your relationship with Nothing Special and the teachings, and where you find yourself in it? What would you say to somebody who doesn't come to this group? And I've been wondering what I would say as a teacher for this group and a student of my own teacher, Flint. What is it to come to be with you from time to time? And, what is my purpose? What's my role in being here? And I think it's very helpful and refreshing to always keep these questions open. What's happening here? What is this? When I became head student in 2016, I was asked by someone, now you're head student, what is your agenda? And it was a rather extraordinary question because it's not something I thought about in those terms. And I remember I'd read this piece by Suzuki Roshi, and I said, it's just to be a good student of my teacher. That's it. And I found that a very spacious and helpful way to navigate being a head student in what initially was quite a difficult situation, because the sangha in general weren't aware of what a head student was, how it worked in a sangha. And there was some resentment about the fact that a head student had been appointed, and it felt for some as an imposition. So for the first few months, my role was more about meeting people and trying to explain and express a role that I hardly knew about. My role was to be a good student of my teacher all that time, and to keep an open mind about how this was going to go. And so I think it's a really lovely, spacious, simple orientation for our practice, just to be a good student. When Trudy and I were in our mid-20s, we lived for a while in an ashram in Los Angeles and in New York. And every evening, hundreds of people would come to meet the guru and hear a talk. And sometimes the guru would, without warning, point to one of the female or male swamis and say, "Speak for 10 minutes on renunciation," or "Speak for 10 minutes on the Bhagavad Gita." And the swami would come to the front of the assembly and, without any preparation, share a talk with remarkable grace and poise. And for a shy, quite self-conscious young man, this was a thing of wonder and fear. I remember thinking, I just couldn't do that. I couldn't do that in front of even a moderately sized group, even if I had time to prepare a talk. And during my months at the ashram, I tried to remain as invisible as possible because I knew sometimes guests who were staying at the ashram were invited to give prepared talks to the assembly. And I was never asked to give a talk. And I was also a little disappointed that I hadn't been. So there was an edge for me of something inviting me to move into some kind of maturity about what this was, what this offered, and also to be someone who could offer something from my experience of being in the ashram. And yet, within a couple of years, I found myself preparing and offering a talk at a retreat in England. Perhaps we have to hold lightly what we think we're not capable of. The experience of the ashram was a prompt to ask more deeply, how does this practice work? How does this community work? What is my place in it? And I feel these are questions we ask ourselves consciously or unconsciously about our place in any community, including a Zen community, and this Zen community. In the ashram, it was certainly clear that however wonderful it looked being close to the guru and his entourage and to the center of things, the closer you got to it, the more you felt the heat. And essentially, among other things, the practice could be described as a training, a crucible of transformation. And I feel this is also true of a Zen community in general, and this community in particular. The closer you get to the center, the more you feel the heat. At Nothing Missing, we recently experienced a talk by Kuan Franz entitled Saying Yes. It was really helpful for me to hear this talk, partly because it's helpful to know where our practice comes from and know how it's been practiced in different settings for many, many centuries. So, talking of his experience of being in a monastic community, he said, suddenly, before a ceremony, someone says, "You're going to play this role." You've never done that before. You've seen it, but maybe you weren't paying enough attention. You don't get to say, "Could I do it next time?" And you don't get to say, "Okay, but could you walk me through it first?" There's no time. You just say, "Yes." It's so counterintuitive, he says. They have to spell it out. This is how you're going to respond. And in that moment, you want to say, "Yes, but." Saying yes is saying yes to this moment, to what this moment is asking, not what someone is demanding, but what is needed. Dogen once said, "We undertake the way with resolute stability." Isn't that wonderful? We undertake the way with resolute stability. How do we navigate our lives in and outside the sangha with resolute stability? Nothing special runs on this quality, the willingness of wonderful people to say yes to offering the Dharma again and again over many years in all seasons to this community. I'm aware too that inhabiting a role in a sangha can be challenging, just like inhabiting a role in any aspect of our lives. When I first became Tenzo in 2012, this was in the Lake District, and I was asked whether I would be the Tenzo, and it involved cooking for about 18 people on a small gas stove. And I'd cooked a little bit, but I'd never cooked for more than 4 people. But I felt the opportunity of beginner's mind to really try to inhabit this role with as much sincerity and purpose and kindness to myself and the ingredients as I could. And over the many, many years that I did this role, I think it was for about 9 years, my appreciation of what the tenzo involved as opposed to cooking deepened and broadened considerably, so that I saw it as a complete practice in itself, a complete offering to the community. And in taking that role, I was also able to appreciate the support of everyone who came and cooked with me over those many, many years. I can track one of the ways my understanding of practice as a student and a teacher has changed over the years by thinking about how I've asked and now ask Sangha members to take on roles. For the first few years of leading Nothing Missing, and as a new teacher, when I approached a Sangha member, for example, about taking on a role at an event or creating or sharing a way-seeking mind talk, I would send them an invitation in the conventional sense, with the expectation that they would accept or decline depending on their preferences and perceived personal needs. My focus was as much on getting the role filled as about the practice of the student. Mostly people accepted my invitation graciously. Sometimes, however, I received something like this. Thank you for your invitation to be timekeeper for the day of practice. I'm afraid I must decline. My head's a bit all over the place at the moment, and I just need to come and sit. And I would think, that's fine. I need to ask someone else to be timekeeper. My understanding of this relational dance has gradually changed. It has become as much, if not more, about the practice of the student than getting the role filled. Firstly, we both have to know what is going on here in the dance. I ask a student to take on a role. The student bows and says yes. It's my responsibility to offer the ceremony of yes. And it's as important as anything else that happens in our practice. Of course, as Suzuki Roshi said, not always so. For example, if you have back pain and you've been asked to organize the layout of the zendo, but always so if it's your preference to look after the flowers. Sojan Mel Weitzman, one of Flint's teachers, offered 4 descriptions of our practice: zazen, study, work to support the sangha, practice discussion, or dokusan. Perhaps you can map your practice over these 4 descriptions. That nothing special, we all practice zazen and we all study together, that's a given. Some of us are asked to take on roles to support the sangha, but these roles are probably less available in an online environment than in an in-person community. And some of us make the decision to step over a threshold and engage in the mystery of practice discussion, dokusan, with a teacher. That's for another day. In 3 weeks' time, some of you will be coming to the residential retreat. It sounds lovely, doesn't it? Friends may assume you will be immersed in relaxing and rejuvenating experiences. Actually, it's not like that at all, although there may be some relaxing and rejuvenating moments, and each participant's experience is unique. We could think of it as more of a kind of manufactured crisis, a crucible which is defined as a situation of severe trial or in which different elements interact, leading to the creation of something new. Although perhaps not a severe trial in the way we offer the retreat, it's interesting then to note that Jukusho Kwong, whose book you have been reading recently, said extended zazen is designed to wear you out until you realize you're not who you think you are. It takes character and sincerity to say yes to attending a retreat or an in-person day of practice. It also takes character and sincerity to say no. Although I want to go, my practice is here at home with my loved ones at this time, as is happening with a number of our sangha members. So, if you're not able to meet in person from time to time, how can you create a gentle crucible for practice if that is not too much of a contradiction in terms? If the purpose of our time together here today, and all our time together practicing together, is to take our practice, our training, into our lives for the benefit of all beings, I have a question. What is your work? What is our work? And what is your work today, Monday the 14th of April? If, as Kuan Fran says, saying yes is saying yes to this moment, to what this moment is asking, this day is asking, what do we have to bow to and say yes to today? So here's a suggestion, and I'm going to take part in this at some point today as well. Think of a task, a meeting, a phone call, something you have to do today. Perhaps it's a task you find tedious, a meeting you find challenging, a phone call with complications. Pause, bow, light a candle and bow again. Say the verse, may my intention equally permeate every being and place with the true merit of Buddha's way. And in this way, you're offering whatever activity it is up to the universe, to the vast, spacious universe you inhabit, however difficult your task. Engage fully in the task and complete it. Return to the candle and then say the verse of the echo. I offer the merit of my practice for the welfare of all beings everywhere. May all be relieved of suffering, free from fear, longing, and aversion, and may I, with all beings, realize the awakened way. Extinguish the candle, pause, bow. Feel what this practice opens you to, and repeat it with another situation. In this way, you extend practice into your life. You are saying, yes, I will. You are practicing as Buddha. Aware of where Zen comes from, what it invites, and what its practices are, the invitation is to be creative in our practice in our modern online lives. To say, yes, I will. When David Chadwick, Suzuki Roshi's biographer, was asked something like, can you encapsulate Suzuki Roshi's teaching in a few words, he said, just do it. Zen is essentially a change in perspective. Thank you very much.